Everyone. My name is Matthew Moser. I'm a software engineer over here at Ivanus, and today I'm making a video going over the release notes for Secure version 23.1. I'll leave a link to the full release notes within the description, but I'm mostly going to be going over the high-level things that you as an end user will need to know. There was a lot of work that we did to the back end to support future releases and improve future builds. However, there are some things that you will want to know that are particular to this build that are quite helpful, especially when you're trying to optimize your workflow. So we'll be going over those. Very quickly, I'm going to go ahead and just shift this over to the notes themselves. Very briefly, we have done a lot of back-end updates. These are things that you won't be able to notice as you use the tool outside of some general bug fixes and stability improvements, but we have laid down the groundwork for new features and enhancements within both the future and this current update. So one of the things I wanted to mention, and is something that I can't easily show, is that when you use Ivanus Secure and you try to clone a Git repository for the first time within it, it will now check to see if you have a Git executable running on your machine. If you don't, it will offer you a way to directly download and set it up for you. This is great in case you don't have Git already installed on your machine. I would show it, but it is quite a hassle for me to remove Git and all my keys and all my config information and reset that up. So I'm not going to do that for the sake of this video, but just know that if you don't have Git installed before, using the tool, you're now able to get it directly once you go and clone a repository, should you not already have Git installed. Another change that we've done is we've made some pretty heavy improvements to the merging and tracking of changes. This is something that's best shown within the tool. So when we're looking at our version control, and we can also see one of the updates that we've done here, version control, it's no longer VCS, at least not by, not after you set up your version control for the project. By default, it will still be VCS, but this is a Git project, so the version control has updated to Git, and some of the methods that we have access to within this dropdown have been updated to the Git dialog. So if you're using different version control, it'll update to that name and the language used for that particular system, but Git is what I'm using, and that's what's being shown here. I can open up my Git version control, show the differences, and we'll look at some of the components and some of the changes I've made. This is the previous version. I'll make this a little bit larger for you. This is the last commit that I made, and this is the current list. What we're now able to do is we're able to better show the granular changes that we might be making to our model. So in previous versions, when we made changes to attributes, such as we stored data or technologies that we might have within a component, those changes would still be present on your current head compared to the latest commit that you have, but it wouldn't show when we would go to the editor here. There would be no green text. It would instead simply show the difference. Here, we've added the green text to show that there is a difference, and then scrolling down to the bottom here, we can see that I've actually removed a piece of data that was previously on the commit and is no longer there in the current head of my branch. So it is able to track that in a much more granular fashion, which is very, very helpful. Whereas before, it would only look at the broad strokes for the component and not actually delve down into the very specific set of options there. Additionally, and let me pull this over back to here, the tracking of moved elements, the algorithm for that has been improved pretty greatly. This is especially helpful when you're simply moving different elements of your project and moving your hierarchy. So that's something that's good to know. We also have a non-modal commit interface, and I'll show how we can enable this. This is off by default. However, this is something that we can enable, and it will allow us to be very, very modular with how we do our imports, or rather our commits to our repository. So if we wanted to do stage only a couple of commits, sign them, commit them, stage a couple more, sign them and commit them, we could go ahead and do so. The way that this is done, I'll go ahead and open this, and I'll close the version control system. We're going to go to File, Settings, Version Control, Commit, and Use Non-Committal Interface. Once we have that, we'll select Apply. I'm not going to use it for this example, but that's how you enable it, and you'll be able to start using it within the tool. Additionally, and this will be, I believe, the last thing that I would like to go over. Um, there have been other fixes, such as improved branches, where if you provided a invalid name for a branch when you were trying to create one, it will now automatically reject that and instead correct the unacceptable symbols for that new branch. So that's helpful, a little bit of a bug fix in quality of life. But the main one that is incredibly helpful for quality of life is the splitting of editors via drag and drop. So in previous versions of the tool, when we had multiple tabs listed up here at the top, and I can go ahead and even open up a couple more just for the sake of demonstration, we were only able to look at one section at a time. So if I wanted to see damage scenarios and threat scenarios side by side, this would be the best that I could do. I believe, yeah, I could use Alt and use the arrow keys to navigate between the two. This would be the fastest way. However, we've now made it so that the editor is fully able to show multiple different tabs at once. So for instance, if I want to see damage scenarios and threat scenarios side by side, I can simply click and hold the threat scenarios, drag it down here. We'll see that this has become blue. If I wanted it to take the entire screen and simply replace, I would drop it here. And now those threat scenarios are present within our editor. However, if I wanted it to do half, I'll navigate back over to damage scenarios. I'm going to go ahead and select that, click and hold, and I can decide, do I want it to be either horizontally split, or if I want it to be vertically split. And this is all dependent on where I drop the particular node here. But as you can see, and let me go ahead and move some of my overlays out of the way. I now have my threat scenarios and my damage scenarios side by side, and I can directly compare and make edits to them in real time across the board. Additionally, you can drop multiple different cuts of your nodes that you want to look at, and we can do as much cutting as we would like, and really as much monitor space as you would like. So I can have my one section for damage scenarios entirely vertical. I have a section for controls and threat scenarios that are sharing the right-hand vertical pane of this particular section. And then I could even go ahead and make different sections larger and smaller to best fit my needs. This is quite helpful for an end user, and it's something that you should definitely know about and use within the tool. And that about covers everything for 23.1. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, and you'll be able to get notifications on our next uploads. And look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you. Have a nice day.